Ibrahim Gobel, representing Sokoto East. The report of this committee is a little bit bulky, but the intention is actually to give you the background. Then after giving the background, we just go into observation and the findings and the recommendations. Because I believe this is going to make it a little bit shorter. With the permission of His Excellency and the Senate, can I do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
During the course of the investigation, we went around with the members of the committee in order to see for ourselves what actually took place. And as you can see, the members of the committee are myself, George Sekibo, Stella, Solomon Adola, Hassan Lawali, Degi, and also Mohammed Musa. We went around. First, of course, we went to Kankan. We interacted with the community. Before then, of course, we were at the River State Government House to condole with the people there for the death of the individuals within that area. Then after that, we interacted with the stakeholders and the community in that area. Then we moved to Lagos. In Lagos, we were with the governor. We condoled with him on the unfortunate incident, after which, of course, we went around to see the scene of the incident. And we were able to see for ourselves actually what happened. It was very pathetic, and it's unfortunate that thing happened that way. But if you open page 25, you will see the observations and the findings. Then from there, we'll go to the recommendations. Item number 7. From the meetings, investigations, and interactive sessions held with the state government of Rivers and all the other stakeholders, the ad hoc committee observed as follows. 1. That there exists system 2E and 2EX, parallel pipelines that are used to pump petroleum products from River State through Aba and up to Makati. 2. That there exists system 2B pipeline that transport petroleum products from Atlas Corp to Ejebo Satellite Depot down to Masumi Area Depot in Ogun State. 3. The Oil Pipelines Act 2004 clearly defined that total route of pipelines indicating the width of right-of-way prohibits encroachment of pipeline right-of-way by unauthorized persons. 4. That bundles and saboteurs often tamper with the pipelines to siphon petroleum products for personal gains. 6. That people living close to the pipeline right-of-way, out of poverty, do go to scoop petroleum products from such leakages. 7. That River State explosion occurred on vandalized system 2 East or 2EX pipelines on Saturday, 22nd June and 22nd June 2019. 8. That the Lagos State explosion occurred on vandalized system 2B pipeline in the earlier hours of July 2019. That one occurred in June and this one in July. 9. That most of the pipelines are aged and need replacement. 10. That the incidences in Rivers and Lagos states were avoidable if the NNPC/NPSC and the contractors maintaining and monitoring the pipelines were duty proactive. 11. That both NNPC and the NPSC and the UTM contractors were aware of the Concom pipeline leakage 2 days before the explosion, but delayed in taking necessary action. 12. That both the NNPC and the NPSC and the oil SARB contractor were aware of the intended activity of the bundles and the leakage a week and a day respectively before the Ijegun explosion, but delayed in taking necessary action. That the security personnel in connivance with the NPSC staff collaborated with the bundles to siphon petroleum products from the pipelines. 14, that there is a contributory negligence on the part of the NNPC and the contractors. 15, that the point of leakage that led to the explosion were few meters from the security posts. 16, that the gunshot by the police officer who wanted to scare villagers away and carry already scooped products by the villagers ignited the explosion and the consequent outbreak in the Konkom River State incident. That the fire outbreak in Ijegum was a result of a distant and intentional spark due to the flow of petroleum products through the slopy drainages along the streets of Ijegum. 18, that lives and properties worth millions of naira were lost in both the Rivers and Lagos States incidences. 19, that up to the time of the visit by the ad hoc committee, no relief materials or any form of assistance were given to the victims, those who would destroy properties situated outside the right-of-way and the communities involved in the damaged vegetation or environment by the NNPC and the NPSC or the contractor. Nobody went. 20, that neither the NNPC NPSC nor the contractors have attempted to clean up or remediate the contaminated environment for the safety of inhabitants of the pipeline host communities. 21, that the UTM contractor is not well mobilized by NNPC, that is NPSC, to enable them purchase modern equipment for proper monitoring of the pipelines, as they only employ manual monitoring system. That OilSAP, the supposedly appointed security and maintenance contractor for the pipeline in the Lagos axis, have not been properly engaged by the NNPC because the agreement has not been signed. That there is no formal contractual document / agreement between OilSAP and the NPSC. 24. The OilSAP, since the period it was engaged through a letter of comfort by NPSC, has not been paid for services rendered. Hence, the ineffectiveness of the company to adequately provide security on the pipelines. 25. That the claim by NPSC of spending 382,203,550 naira, 50 kobo, 54 kobo, only on firefighting operation in Konkom is very outrageous and unfounded. That Article 3.1.12 of the contract agreement between NNPC and the UTM Offshore Limited stated that the contractor would provide asset protection and security services to ensure avoidance or prevention of undesirable acts, including but not limited to 1. Unauthorized intrusion, B. Willful damage, C. Right-of-way encroachment, D. Crude oil stock product theft, E. Illegal refining, F. Petroleum products tapping, G. Pipeline vandalism. So 27, Article 3.2 of same agreement stated that the contractor, in the event of product loss due to vandalism of pipeline and undesirable acts specified in paragraph 3.1.12 above, NNPC shall deduct from the product invoice, from the contractor's invoice, an amount equal to the established value of any product loss above the allowable contract tolerance for any pipeline operation period. That the Act established in NOSDRA only provides for penalties and offenders, but does not provide enforcement of the penalties. 29. That the pipeline host communities are not properly engaged in pipeline monitoring and security against activities of partners. I think those are the observations. We now go to the recommendations. The ad hoc committee, after exhaustive deliberation, holders and the first-hand information obtained at the on-spot assessment of the scenes of the incidences in both Konkom and the Ijegun recommends as follows. 1. That the Senate do urge NEMA to immediately send relief materials to the fire incident victims of both communities, Konkom and Ijegun, to alleviate their pains. 2. That the Nigerian Pipelines and Storage Company, a subsidiary of Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, should without further delay carry out proper assessment of the contaminated environments for immediate cleanup and remediation. 3. That the Nigerian Pipelines and Storage Company Limited, a subsidiary of NNPC, and the contractors should carry out proper survey of the impact of the fire incidences on the communities, determine the actual number of recorded deaths, and pay adequate compensation to all victims and the affected communities. 4. That the NNPC should, without further delay, embark on horizontal directional drilling (HDD) in relaying pipelines, especially in identified hotspots where erosion has exposed the pipelines to surface so as to conceal them from vandals as earlier advised by Lagos State Government. That NNPC should involve members of the host communities in the pipeline surveillance within their various areas as an interim preventive measure. We go to page 30. That NNPC, that's number 6. NNPC should, as a matter of urgency, install pressure monitoring devices and shut-off valves at close intervals on all petroleum product pipelines across the country. 7. That NNPC should evaluate their security and monitoring outfits on the pipeline routes across the country. Number 8. NNPC should immediately evoke Article 3.2 of the contract agreement entered with UTM Offshore Limited to issue a query to the company and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector. 9. That NNPC should immediately formalize its contract agreement with Oil SAP on pipeline surveillance and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector. 10. That NNPC should start the process of deploying modern technology in pipeline surveillance and detection of leakages, as well as introduce cathodic protection on the pipelines. 11. That NNPC should refund the outraged sum of 382,203,055 naira 74 kobo only it claimed to have used in firefighting operation in Konkom, and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream. 12. That NNPC should carry out proper check on all petroleum product pipelines across the country to ascertain their status for either repairs or total replacement. 8. That the governments of Rivers and the Lagos State, as well as pipeline host community leaders, should sensitize all occupants of the pipeline right-of-way to vacate the right-of-ways to avoid accidents. Number 14, that pipeline owners, NNPC, should liaise with the state governments to vacate all occupants of the pipeline right-of-way, and that, as a matter of urgency, the NOSDRA Act should be amended to address current realities in the petroleum sector. Conclusion. The ad hoc committee appreciates the Senate leadership and the entire Senate for the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
On this well-written report by the ad hoc committee that investigated the causes of pipeline explosions in Konkom, in Rivers, and Ijebu, Lagos State. Mr. President, they did an exhaustive job on this assignment given to them. And I have no doubt with the kind of leadership of the kind of membership of this committee, headed by experienced and a ranking senator of the Federal Republic. I didn't expect anything less than what they've done in this job. But Mr. President, you see, at the heart of all these things we are doing here, of all such incidences that happen, of such outbreaks of fire at pipeline vandalized points across the country, is the attitude of the people who should supervise the agencies that are in charge of making sure that petroleum product goes around the country. Mr. President, if there is no punishment for any offense, Mr. President, am I protected?
Is anybody distracting you? Protected.
Mr. President, I want to say that if there is no punishment for offenses committed in the land, the tendency that it will not only happen again, it will be repeated severally. So we must hold accountable the people who are in charge in the NNPC and NNPCs. We must find those people and discipline them. This committee report should not just end with telling us the story and we will pass the recommendation and say, carry on. Mr. President, now that the ad hoc committee has provided us with information, I have to say that because this ad hoc committee was appointed before the constitution of committees, we have the downstream committee. I'm suggesting that the downstream committee, should follow up this issue to ensure that those people who are responsible for managing these pipelines and allow this thing to happen, because they stated it here that some of them were aware 1 week, some 3 or 4 days, were informed about the problem that was about to happen, and they did not want to take any action. So we have to follow up and make sure that all those people that are concerned in this, as reported in this committee, should face the music. That is the only way people can be serious about the job they are doing. Mr. President, I have looked around here. 96 souls, Nigerians, 96 souls just lost in this incident. And somebody is in his office and just life continues. Nobody is bothered until you rose to the occasion and set this committee to go and find them. And we have gotten all this report. And I'm happy we are discussing this in today. Mr. President, we have to get these people and ensure they are punished. Then the other issue is that there is a lot of issues here in the committee about the laws, the gap in the laws guiding the operations of the people at the PPMC and all that. And that is the Nusra law. I'm of the opinion that in order to make sure that we plug the loophole there, we are going to ensure that amendment is quickly, amendment of this law should be done. And if we are doing that, because we have discussed this severally, because at the heart of it all is the PIB, Petroleum Industry Bill. The piecemeal approach to it will never solve any problem. I have said it and I'm saying it again, that we have to look at everything holistically. Get all these laws that concern with the operations of the petroleum industry, whether it's upstream, whether it's midstream, or whether it's downstream. We have to look at this holistically. If we look at it, we'll make sure that we get things done. But if we pick one, just like we picked the PSC Act and amendment and did, we sign that one, tomorrow we return, it will not help matters. It's very, very important that we have to do this, Mr. President. And time is now. Let the offenders, the people who slept on...
You can round up now, please.
Let those people who are negligent of their office, of their duties, the relation of their duties, let them face the music. That's the only way Nigerians will feel that we have done our job and done it conclusively. Thank you so much.
In commending the committee that this detailed and comprehensive investigation came out
with far-reaching measures to avert, further crisis. Mr. President, I'm of the opinion that these recommendations should not only remain with the Senate, they should immediately be forwarded to the executive for immediate implementation. Because that is the only way we can justify the enormous work done by the committee. Mr. President, I'm also of the opinion that those that are found culpable should be punished. There is negligence on the part of the officials that are supposed to be monitoring these pipelines. If they had done their job, this catastrophe wouldn't have happened. So we have found out that there is gross negligence, and it should not be, ignored. The NNPC or the ministries concerned with the monitoring of NNPC should, as a matter of urgency, initiate measures to punish the officials. Secondly, Mr. President, I am also of the opinion that remedial measures should immediately be taken to clean up the environment. It has happened so many times that when there is pipeline, there is gross damage to the environment, great deal of damage to the environment, and nothing is done for months and even for years. The community suffer a lot from it. The number of people that died cannot even be ascertained. It is really lamentable. And if it happens in other clans, within hours, they will be able to come out with the number of people that died. And they will also be able to come up with measures that can be taken to avert further crisis. But here in our country, this incident happened in July. And up to now, we are in the month of November. Nothing has been done. Why? The issue of refunding 300 and something million naira, which the committee recommended. Mr. President, we want further details on this. Is it that this equipment, this firefighting equipment, have not been purchased? The committee recommended this. We don't know why the recommendation came up. If the firefighting equipment are not there, Mr. President, this is fraud. And those that claim that they have bought this firefighting equipment should be brought to book. They should face the full wrath of the law. I so submit, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Pipeline vandalism is a bit misunderstood. Every time it happens, we try to blame it on poverty, on the poor victims that end up as casualties. But, Mr. President, a situation where somebody will deploy sophisticated equipment to a pipeline, install a valve, and be siphoning fuel into 33,000-liter tankers 2-3 kilometers away is not poverty. This is a very, very sophisticated operation. What happens in most instances is that after these criminal gangs finish their activities and leave, then of course the surrounding villagers cannot resist the temptation of going there and picking up the pieces, and then along the line an explosion occurs and innocent people are burnt. Not innocent per se, but 9 times out of 10, Mr. President, it's not those poor people that actually do the damage. There are instances where some of these criminal gangs come along with firefighting equipment so that if there's a fire incident during their own operation, they immediately take care of it. So, Mr. President, just like Senator Otazi said, let us widen the scope and focus on the very, very sophisticated criminal ring that is almost always responsible for the initial pipeline breakage. These acts of vandalism that are neglected when you look at it, they are not a huge percentage of the problem. So, Mr. President, I think we need to actually isolate and identify the fact that it goes beyond 40 victims, 97 victims. These are victims that come after the fact with buckets and crude implements to scoop up what is left after these criminal gangs have taken away hundreds of thousands of liters to go and sell in the open market. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Let me commend the committee for a job well done. But given the number of people that have lost their lives as a result of this incident, it gives us a sense of concern that innocent citizens die in some of these activities. But, Mr. President, I want to look at the whole issue from the point of sabotage. It appears to me that our country has gotten to a point where some people are willing to make money at all costs at the expense of human lives. And that should be a thing of concern. And this is as a result of some kind of economic sabotage. Mr. President, I rise to proffer some solution, if it will be acceptable to these honorable senators, distinguished senators. Mr. President, a pipeline is a means of conveying product from one point to another. And year in and year out, most of the time you hear about pipeline vandalization, people breaking the pipeline for some sabotage or for some criminal financial benefit. If we have to stop this, then NNPC must approach it from the point of business. In other words, let the pipeline issue be contracted out, just like you have trailers and tipper or the trailers conveying products. Let companies now own the pipeline, take care of it, and ensure that they let the pipeline protect it themselves, only to convey this product, and they are paid for it. Because what I've seen in our country, Mr. President, is that people have been smart. They create problems to solve the problems and to make money, even when people are dying. If NNPC, and we have this attitude that government business is nobody's business. Government property is nobody's property, so you can deal with it anytime. If somebody wants to get a contract, all he needs to do is to send somebody to blow the pipeline so they can give him the contract of $100 million. So he makes money, even if people die as a process. But if you give them this contract and say, take it and ensure that you just give me my product at this end, however you fix it, this whole thing will stop and Nigeria will be better for it. Same thing is happening in the issue of security. For as long as criminal activities have been commercialized, then there's no end to the business. Let us not blame that the pipelines are old. Let us not say that the pipelines are vandals. Once you give it to any businessman, he will bring the communities and they will protect this. Simple and short. But my concern is that those who want to make money should not make money at the expense of the poor people, even at their debt. So to stop this pipeline vandalization, if NNPC should remove the face of government and deal issue of this business as business, contract it out to companies who now take the job, then this whole thing will no longer happen because private individuals will never allow their pipeline to be broken by anybody. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
The committee that presented their reports on this, what I call Dastardly Act, that is now a recurring decimal in the country. And let me, Senator Adejia was spot on with his presentation. Clearly, the people that carried out this activity, they are not the roadside mechanic or people that are just poor. These are very, very sophisticated people. People that are well trained, that know how to break the pipe and install valves. And clearly, this is what they do all of the time. I remember that, was it in 2013, 2014? This was happening on a daily basis. You will have some men that are very well trained. They will go, bust the pipe, cap it, go there, continue to siphon the fuel. It is when they leave that all the people living in that surrounding will now go ahead and help themselves. And clearly, of course, this leads to several deaths. Mr. President, it is not negligence, let me say that on the part of NNPC. It is active connivance. Because this is not negligence, this is a deliberate act. They know what to do. Indeed, at that time, we recommended that they should automate their pipeline surveillance, which I think they did. So if there's any fault at any place, if they can close the valve, they know. Even when the signal are triggered, they do not do what they should do. And that is what is creating these problems. Lots of lives are being lost, almost on a monthly basis. So I listened to Senator Okorosha. Yes, good as what he said is, indeed they attempted it. For me, I think we should get the locals more involved in protecting all these pipes. Times were when they were approached and people would say that anybody that comes within your locality, you will be held responsible. I think if they are encouraged, and those that are fined culpable, the people that are saddled with the responsibility of protecting these pipes, once they are brought to book and punished, they will know. Because whenever it happens, they will just say it's negligence. They do not know. And they know. They will know from their office when a pipe is being busted, but nothing will be done. So I think what we should do is, one, to punish. If you look at the amount that they said they use, what for? We should ask ourselves, what for? Were the money given to Mr. A or Mr. B, they should tell who they gave the money to. Aside from the billions that they are making from this pipeline vandalization. So I want to support my colleague that argued that they should be punished. Beyond that, they should get the communities in which all these pipelines passes to be part of securing those pipelines. Because I don't know what is happening. Even if you see our street lights on major roads, you will see them being removed. Even the manhole on major roads, you will see them, they will take the iron and go and melt. So for how long that we have to get somebody to say, okay, we are giving you money to monitor? They should get those people in those localities to take adequate care of those our national assets. Thank you, Mr. President.
Have been very clearly articulated in the report. But this is such a critical matter that must be emphasized. And colleagues have done well doing just that. Mr. President, every day we talk about this pipeline vandalization and pipeline explosions. We will continue to talk about this infinitely if something proactively is not done. I know a colleague has spoken about the type of punishment that should be meted out. I would rather think about preventive measures, such as the one that Senator Okorocha spoke about. But fundamentally, let me make this point. I do think clearly that we cannot use 18th century methods to deal with 21st century challenges. This is a matter clearly beyond all others that has to be dealt with technologically. If the right technology is applied in taking care of these oil pipelines, we will not have these cases anymore. Or at least they will be reduced to their barest minimum. And we are speaking about a situation that has been handled in other countries with maximum success, Mr. President. And I do know that we have some of the brightest minds, some of the most exposed minds working in the NNPC. Something tells me clearly that there is truly a huge measure of sabotage in all of this. We cannot, in the quest to make money in this country, endanger the lives of our citizens and threaten their very existence permanently. The NNPC has the capability, it has the men and materials, it has the resources to employ technology to deal with this matter. I think as one man, this Senate should move a proper motion and direct that the best technology available now should be used to take care of our pipelines. If that is done, we would, I'm sure, not be dealing with these kinds of unfortunate situation again. We are a great nation. We shouldn't be acting as a banana republic. Thank you, Mr. President.
We go to the recommendation. NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency, to immediately send relief materials to the fire incident victims of both communities, Konkom and Ijegun, to alleviate their pains. Those in favor of the recommendation, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Nigerian Pipelines and Storage Company Limited, NPSF, SC, a subsidiary of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, should without further delay carry out proper assessment of the contaminated environments for immediate cleanup and remediation. Those in favor of recommendation 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 3, that Nigerian Pipelines and Storage Company Limited, a subsidiary of Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and the contractors should carry out proper survey of the impact of the fire incidences on the communities, determine the actual number of recorded deaths, and pay adequate compensation to all victims and affected communities. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. There was another A. No. I will put it again. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 4, that NNPC, NPSC should without further delay embark on horizontal directional drilling in relaying pipelines, especially in identified hotspots where erosion has exposed the pipelines to the surface, so as to conceal them from vandals as earlier advertised by Lagos State Government. Those in favor of recommendation 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 5, that NNPC, NPSC should involve members of host communities in pipeline surveillance within their various areas as an interim preventive measure. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 6, that NNPC, NPSC should, as a matter of urgency, install pressure monitoring devices and shut-off valves at close intervals on all petroleum products pipelines across the country. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 7, that NNPC, NPSC should evaluate their security and monitoring outfits on the pipeline routes across the country. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 8, that NNPC should immediately invoke Article 3.2 of the contract agreement entered with UTM Offshore Limited, issue a query to the company, and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector. Those in favor of recommendation 8 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 9, that NNPC, NPSC should immediately formalize its contract agreement with all staff on pipeline surveillance and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 10, that NNPC should start the process of deploying modern technology in pipeline surveillance and detection of leakages, as well as introduce cathodic protection on the pipelines. Those in favor of recommendation 10 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 11, that NNPC, NPSC should refund to the Treasury the outrageous sum of 382,200,300,055 naira 70 kobo only it claimed to have used in firefighting operation in Konkom, and provide evidence of compliance to the Committee on Downstream Petroleum Sector. Those in favor of recommendation 11 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 12, that NNPC, NPSC should carry out proper check on all the petroleum product pipelines across the country to ascertain their status for either repairs or total replacement. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 13, that the governments of Rivers and Lagos states, as well as all pipeline host community leaders, should sensitize all occupants of pipeline right of ways to vacate the right of ways. Those in favor of the prayer say aye. Recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 14, that pipeline owners, NNPC, should liaise with the state governments to vacate all occupants of the pipeline right of ways. Those in favor of recommendation 14 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 15, that as a matter of urgency, the NOSDRA Act should be amended to address current realities in the petroleum sector. Those in favor of recommendation 15 say aye. Those amendment, Senate Leader.
Yes, sir.
Recommendation 15 as amended, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank everyone. Additional prayer.
Additional prayer. That
The additional prayer, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank all of us for the various interventions. But let me also say that our committee on downstream petroleum sector should invite the NNPC with a view to evaluating the measures or the plans or what they have been doing over the years to secure the pipelines. We need to know what our contracts there are, what our measures have been in place over the years, and whether there is need to review those agreements or those arrangements. Of course, the integrity of the pipelines will always be there, but this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. People consciously do these things. It's not an accident. Those who are caught in the fire are normally those who come to scavenge in courts, because the main people would have finished and gone, but they will come with their buckets, and at the end of the day, they lose their lives. In any case, this is not acceptable, and like most of our colleagues have indicated, there must be sanctions. Somebody would have to pay the price. And of course, we should follow this through. Our committee on downstream, after these resolutions are sent to the executive arm of government, we should follow it up. And our committee on legislative compliance as well, we need to follow it up to find out what happens. But I believe that the NNPC needs to explain to our committee, the downstream, the measures they have had in place over the years, whether there is need to review this and even the agreements. And of course, when we have to amend the NOSDRA Act, this is something that we need to do expeditiously. It shouldn't be that at the heat of the moment we are concerned and then after some time it goes down, the flame just dies like that. We should do it because it will help in preventing or minimizing these kind of things. Leader of the Senate.